Malcolm Louie here. Welcome to Eversprint.com. Today we're speaking with Scott Schwalbe, the CEO of NimbeLink, a fast-growing company that creates and deploys carrier-certified embedded modems and asset tracking solutions that reduce costs and time to market. We'll be discussing how he grew his company's revenue from $1.8 million in 2014 to $6.5 million in 2017, a 256% increase, and how they're on track to hit $10 to $11 million this year. Welcome to the call, Scott.
Thank you, Malcolm.
So, Scott, how did you do it? How did you grow your company's sales so fast?
Yeah, so really it's about surrounding yourself with good people and getting into a very large market. So it's part preparation and part luck. So we're in the Internet of Things marketplace, which is large and it's growing fast, and we identified a key area to focus on and brought on really good people. So it's really the team that is driving the growth for us.
For the growth that you've achieved in sales, is it coming simply from new customer acquisitions, acquiring new customers, or have you been able to grow your business with your existing customers?
Yeah, so it's a combination. With our certified cellular modems, it's an embedded product. So once a customer designs that product into theirs, we're selling business to business, they typically will buy our solution for 3 to 5 years, depending on how long their product goes into the market. So we create a reoccurring model of that modem once it's purchased. Once it's designed in, that design continues, and so those customers will stay year over year. And then when they introduce new products, typically we're doing some upselling in some areas, and then bringing on new customers with new technology. So it's a combination, and again we'll talk a little bit further, but we have 2 different product lines that we're focused on also.
Okay. Would you say most of your growth is coming from new customers, or most of it's coming from your current customers adding more product lines?
Yeah, I'd say the growth really is a combination, but I would say that our customers ramping up into production. So we did a lot of hard work, heavy lifting, and engaging with customers in 2016, 17, and a lot of them are now going into production and so ramping up their products. So that's a significant amount of the growth. And because new customers that we might bring in and decide to use the Skywire modem, if they decide today, typically we don't generate a lot of revenue from them 6 to 12 and even to 18 months beyond the win. So most of our 2018 revenue is coming from customers that designed the product in 2016 and 17.
Right. How does your team maximize the revenue, the sales from your new customers? What sort of processes do you have in place to do that?
Sure. So we have a very disciplined sales process that we've put into place on making sure that initially, if we before they become a customer, ensuring that we're the right fit before we spend a lot of resources working with the customers, because as the people listening to this discussion, that's one of the biggest challenges. Making sure you're not chasing too much and getting focused on chasing the right things. So we put a pretty disciplined process in place to answer 3 or 4 key questions. Does the customer have a business model that makes sense? Do they have a team and a good probability of taking a product to market? And are we really the best fit? You have to be able to walk away and tell customers that there might be another solution, or there might be a different way to do that, and be very open about that, because it doesn't make sense to try to shoehorn your product into the solution.
In terms of the new customer acquisitions, how do you go about finding them?
Yeah, so we have a couple different avenues. We use a distribution network, so we have key distributors for our Skywire modem, like DigiKey and Symmetry and Arrow and Get Wireless, and so those key distributors bring in opportunities and leads. We have relationships with most of the carriers. So when we go to market, all of the telecom carriers have teams that are out there talking to OEMs, doing business to business, and they bring us some leads, and then we have a distinct number of leads that we generate ourselves through trade shows and through webinars and through some advertising. So we've got three. I would say bucket into those three categories is where most of our leads come from.
Okay, which has been your best source of leads, both in terms of quantity and quality?
Yeah, so quantity is coming mostly through, our higher quantity leads are coming through the distribution channel, and I would say the higher quality leads are coming through some specific carriers. They seem to qualify them a little bit better for us. Surprising when we look at it, the leads coming through our website and into our website and through the website to the contact form has actually been very good quality. So the attributes, we've done a lot of work to put videos and help explain the product and try to help educate before the customers contact us.
Right. Now, what can you do to scale up the number of leads that you're getting from your carriers, right? You said those are your highest quality ones, so of course you want more of those. So what can you do, what can your team do to scale it up and ramp it up and encourage them to send you more qualified leads?
Yeah, it's with any partner, it's a matter of how much time and effort you put into the relationship will actually be a direct relationship to the leads and the opportunities coming back. So obviously offering more training, more education, being open and willing to go on sales calls or be part of them, doing webinars, creating specific sales collateral towards those, to sell with a partner, like a carrier partner, case studies, all those things that make it easier for them to understand quickly that the NimbeLink solution is the right solution, and then how to get a hold of us and qualify it. So we continue to do more and more of that work, and then it comes into some resources, being able to have enough people to quickly respond to the lead. I think one of the critical things that anybody listening to this, if you do have a partner and you do have leads, you need to follow up quickly and be responsive, and you have to follow up on the leads you don't necessarily want to follow up on sometimes too. You have to make sure that you treat the partner well and give them respect, and sometimes it means doing following up on all the leads.
Right. Yeah, I tell my clients that I work with that a lead is a terrible thing to waste, right? If you get someone who raises their hand and say, "Yeah, I'd like to learn more," you got to follow up with them. You can't drop the ball on those.
Correct.
Yeah. So the website side of your lead gen, good quality, you said. How are they finding you? Is it just a Google search and they're coming to your website that way, or are you buying traffic to pull those people to your site?
Yeah, so at this point, it's just been SEO and Google, search words. We have not done any paid up to this point. We are looking at that as a potential avenue going forward, but up to this point, it's really been about the proper, use of, SEO and making sure we're using the keywords and making sure we're doing that throughout the website, and doing the proper, getting recognized for when an engineer or a potential customer is doing a search, we're ranking pretty high on what we believe are the right searches.
Right. Okay. Can you give me a feel for the relative number of leads that are you getting from your distributors, carriers versus the web? If you were to break it down by percentages.
Yeah. So it's roughly about 35% distribution, and close to 30 from and again, each one, the carriers, we have multiple carriers, and then probably 35 from the carriers, and then the other 30 is from all other, which would include trade show and website. And I don't know the exact percentage, but I'm sure our website probably in that 20% range.
Right. That's pretty good. That's quite a nice balanced stream of leads from different areas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How do you foresee that ratio changing over time? I mean, from the website perspective, right? That looks like that might be the one that might be the easiest one for you to scale up, right? If you can find the paid advertising campaigns that work, you can just buy more of them, right? And send more traffic to your site.
Yep. Yeah, because the other areas with distributors and partners, you have to put more effort and people time towards those, or again create things that are more automated. But you are correct that doing more of that advertising is a key area.
Is that in plan? Is that something that you and your team are
It
thinking
is.
about doing? Okay.
It is. Yes.
Like say 5 years from now, how much of your leads do you think would be coming from your online marketing as opposed to your distributors and carriers?
Yeah, I would, while I plan on continuing to increase the leads from the other channels, I would say that we would be probably looking closer to a 40 to 45% from our own ads and website, but again, while increasing the numbers from partners also.
Yep. So you shared with me before at the very beginning of our call that you're looking to do 10 to 11 million this year. That's a pretty big increase from the 6.5 million you did in 2017. Is that simply from your previous wins finally going into production and buying more of your product, or is there something else that's driving that increase?
Sure. Yeah, it's two things. So it's one, customers are going into production with our our Skywire embedded modem, and then the other area is we in 2017 and really just ramping into 2018, we introduced a new product line of asset tracking solutions that weren't available until really this year with the new LTE network that's being deployed nationwide. We're deploying a set of asset trackers that are replacing old 2G network asset tracking solutions. So that product line is just ramping up, which is driving to a certain part of that growth, which we expected to drive to a much higher percentage going into 2019.
Right. I saw on your on a PR release that you have about how you're planning on having a live beehive at the Mobile World Congress in September, and I assume that's because you're it's a demo, right, of your asset tracking solution. What's the uniqueness of that particular product and application?
Sure. So one of our partners, it's interesting when you think about asset tracking and asset management. It's not necessarily just moving something from point A to point B and knowing where it's at. A lot of times it's actually, in this particular case, there's two or three value propositions. One, apparently beehives are being stolen. People can, they're remote and there's nobody around, so there's a large theft going on with beehives. So if you just think from that perspective, an asset tracking with an accelerometer that can connect with GPS and wake up if it's moving, because beehives are not supposed to move. So if you get an alert that it's moving, that's a key indicator that there's something going wrong. And then the other aspect is from an environment. Bees are very sensitive to the environment, to the temperature, the humidity. There's multiple ways to manage, with sound and weight, and so as we continue to work with the industry, there's a lot of different remote monitoring that can happen to actually inform the beekeeper on which beehives he should be going and paying attention to, instead of just going on a routine drive or a check to look at them. So in this case, stolen beehives is a key, simple. You think about that. That's an easy one to solve. But then when you start thinking about tracking, noise and weight, and there's a lot of things that can be done with the environment and the surroundings of an asset.
How big is is the value, or rather, by having this solution to reduce the theft of beehives, how much are they projecting that they're going to be saving in terms of essentially losing their inventory?
Sure. Yeah. So it's a little different in each case. The ROI happens pretty quickly because and I don't have the exact numbers, but each beehive produces an X amount of dollars each year, and one, if you lose it, you lose it. And so if you lose 10% of those or 5%, that's a pretty significant impact right away. The other thing is it's because it takes a while to get that back up and running and get the beehive. And then the other, like I said, the other aspects of monitoring the beehive in this case, and when you think about beehives, you can almost think about any asset that people are driving around checking to see if it's got fuel in it, see if they're driving around and determining if it's at the right temperature. With the Internet of Things, tracking of location goes across all of them, so you can do a very generic horizontal approach, because everybody wants to know where their stuff is. But then the next thing is each vertical then has unique applications to it. So, for instance, the beehives, want to know weight, and they want to know noise. If you think about monitoring porta potties, they want to know where they're at, but they also might want to know if it's tipped over or if it's full. And and if you think about monitoring garbage cans, they want to know when it's full, and so it's the Internet of Things space has the similarity. They all want to know where their stuff is, so they don't lose it. So there's a specific ROI just in that where we're working with it. So it's we've got a number of different applications that with location only. And the technology today is coming to a point where you can actually get autonomous asset tracking solutions running on AA batteries that'll last 5 to 10 years in the field without having to go out and replace them.
Right, fantastic. Saves people a trip to go out there and look at it, right? You have this,
yep.
You have your device out there sending you the information. Can you share what the typical ROI might be for a specific case study or application?
Yeah. So it's some of them are a little softer than others. For instance, we're working with a company that has distributed toolboxes that they send to that they send a worker out there, and they expect that toolbox to be there. And when it's not there, now they've got time. They're paying that that mechanic so much per hour to be there and work. And if the tools aren't there, which they expected them to be there, it's every hour is wasted, and then they got to send somebody out to go find it. And that's happening in this particular case about 10% of the time. And so there's significant dollars. And again, I don't mean to kind of dance around and not give you the exact ROI, but hasn't really been calculated. I haven't actually done the calculation with the customer and actually shared that. They haven't shared it with me, but I can tell you anecdotally, each of these cases when they get deployed, definitely have an ROI, and you can quickly do the different parameters, and each business and each vertical is a little bit different on calculating that ROI.
Yeah. Is there an expected range of ROI from the application of your products?
So again, the product is getting less and less expensive to deploy. Also, you're basically spending $100 for a piece, for the asset tracking hardware, and depending on who you're using, $5 to $10 a month on that particular device. So it doesn't. The cost is pretty low. So the return on investment actually, can in some cases, if you've got 1,000 things deployed out there, and 10 of them disappear, and they're all worth $5,000 each. That the ROI happens really quickly with less than a 1% loss.
Right. Yeah, it sounds like a real compelling reason to buy your products and services.
That's what we believe, and we're seeing that. That is driving to the growth that we're having, and what we believe will be our continued future growth.
Right. Is there any particular niche within the Internet of Things that you're focused on?
Well, so if you think about, when the Internet of Things are very, very broad perspective. So some of the bigger markets like the connected home, we're not doing anything within the connected home. We're not doing anything within the automotive space. We're really focused on, I would say, closer to industrial and business to business. And within that, cellular connectivity. So we're not doing things with connecting to Wi-Fi and from the backhaul and Ethernet. So our niche is really working with customers that have remote assets that don't have the ability to connect to an Ethernet backhaul, or they don't have the opportunity to connect to somebody's network. And so that's really our niche, is cellular based, and then with the asset tracking, it's really in this low power, wide area network focus.
How did you and your team decide to focus on this particular niche as opposed to everything else you just talked about that you're not planning on doing?
Sure, yeah. So as we got into the business with the Skywire modem, again, we knew that it was really for the longer tail of the market, customers that are building 10,000 units or 15,000 units, not 100,000. And then over from 2013 to 16 to 17, we've had the opportunity to see a lot of markets and to work with a lot of technologies, doing some custom design products and integrating. We got to see who was doing what with their product, and then we had been very engaged in understanding this new network within a network that is called LTE-M and narrowband IoT. So we've been early adopters to that. So the combination, and the engineering team is very versed at RF and power, and so it was a natural transition to use our skills. And then we identified a large enough market to use those skills, and we had the infrastructure from distribution and sales leads. So it was just a natural. And as we go further down, we haven't, we might zero into one particular vertical, and actually then that's where the ROI will really come in, because we'll be selling that whole solution. Right now, we sell our solution to businesses that have figured out the ROI, and they know they need an asset tracking solution to actually go out and sell it. So we haven't quite picked a vertical yet, but we're looking at various verticals today.
Okay. Can you are you able to share what those verticals look promising? The promising verticals that you're looking at?
At a higher level, agriculture and construction at the very highest level. As we zero down into that, there's some unique value propositions of looking at the tracking and the management of utility trailers, and especially when you start talking to contractors that are smaller contractors that might have 10, 15, 20, or 30 assets deployed, and they want to know where they are. They want to know where their tools are. That seems to be a very interesting. We're getting a lot of demand and a lot of requests for kind of utility trailer management within construction.
Right. Yeah, I could see how those things can get misplaced quite easily or stolen.
Sure. Yeah.
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 So, in terms of your competitors, your best competitors, what are they doing really well, and what are they doing really poorly?
Yeah. So when it comes to the Skywire modem, it's interesting. Our major competitor is actually the OEM. Our customers' engineering group is probably our biggest competitor, because they have to make a decision: should they design the product in, or it's almost a make versus buy decision in a lot of cases. And very capable groups, and it's really a matter of what's the business focus and where do they want to focus. They really want to focus on cellular and RF and antennas, or do they want to create the product and the whole architecture? So that becomes our competitive area, and again, they're doing well. When it comes out to the competitors in both in the module and the modem, and then ultimately in the asset tracking, we've got some very good competitors that are doing a good job of getting into the marketplace. We've got a couple of competitors that are much larger than us, and they're doing more marketing, and we see them in the marketplace, so that's helpful. So to just have that brand out there. We're doing better about getting our brand, but that's a challenge when you're working with bigger companies to compete with that just that brand recognition and to compete with being seen.
So how are you? What's your plan to compete against the bigger companies on a branding front?
Yeah, so we are going all the way back to what we talked about a little bit ago. More of the focused, potentially direct channel AdWords, and maybe we're obviously continuing to make sure we're at the trade shows, being more visible, being recognized as experts in the marketplace. So we continue to do that, and so where we're focused, we actually have pretty good name recognition, but outside of that, it's really got to be down that route of becoming more available on the website.
Right. Like, how big is your biggest competitor revenue-wise?
Yeah, I suppose they're in a couple, $200-300 million in revenue.
Right. So these guys can potentially outspend you on the marketing front fairly easily.
Correct. Right.
So how does a smaller company like yourself market effectively against a company that could have a budget, 50 times bigger than yours?
Sure. So again, it's probably not only marketing, but it's in all aspects of the company. It's focus, because it's the biggest challenge when you're a smaller company with limited resources and you're going after a very large market, is focusing and making sure you stay on that focus. So we've become very, very good at our core area that we're zeroed in on. So when we looked at the embedded modems space, we became very good at it and became known in the marketplace with the technology partners, and identifying where the leads are actually coming from and creating those relationships. So a lot of times when you think about marketing and brand awareness, it isn't always necessarily getting out a broad message, is making sure you get out the right message to the right people.
Right. Now, your industry is a disruptive industry. How do you see your industry itself being disrupted? What are the things that are occurring that you want to be, catch the right trend and avoid the negative trends?
Sure. So if you look at just in this low power wide area, network area with the cellular carriers and the licensed and the unlicensed spectrum, there's a lot of technologies that are making noise in the ecosystem. Companies like you see LoRa, LoRa, LoRaWAN, and Sigfox, and then Wi-Fi is actually getting more prevalent in areas. So really have to pay attention to those technologies as they continue to drive cost, and they drive more network ability. If all of a sudden one of these technologies becomes really prevalent across the world, they could disrupt what's going on within the cellular space that we're focused on. So I think it's really in that area, watching and paying attention. And again, it's not necessarily they're exclusively that you have to separate them. In some cases, using them together might be the right solution with an edge to a gateway solution for a campus or something. So we pay a lot of attention to the technologies. And the biggest interesting thing is when you have the noise and the hype, like now, 4G and LTE was recently released. Now everybody's talking about 5G, and without really understanding it, all of a sudden, hey, should we do anything with 4G because 5G is coming out, without really understanding if 4G is not going away. 5G is just enhancing it and replacing it. So there's this disruption technology that's coming out that isn't as disruptive as people think, but it actually makes them pause.
Right, exactly. Now, I saw from your LinkedIn profile that you're in the Navy for 20 years. How does your experience in the Navy help or hinder the work you're doing today?
Yeah, I think it was very helpful. The Navy is just a great place for growing leadership skills, core values. I was fortunate, worked with very good people, had good core training and education, and so for me, just the discipline and the leadership aspects of the Navy, really was beneficial for me as I would not have been in a position, early out of college to have the discipline to focus on being an entrepreneur and starting a company. And so takes me a little longer. I'm a little slow learner, so I needed those 20 years.
Right. Well, one last question for you, Scott. For the listeners out there who are interested in doing business with NimbeLink, what's the best way for them to contact your team?
Yeah, the best way would be go to our website, www.nimbelink.com, and then go to the contact section and fill out a contact form. And that way we get the right team member to you as fast as possible.
Great. Thanks for joining us today, Scott, and sharing how you grew your company so fast.
Well, thank you. It was enjoyable, nice conversation.
We've been speaking with Scott Schwalbe, the CEO of NimbeLink, about his company's rapid growth. For interviews with other fast-growing companies or to learn how we can increase your firm's high-ticket sales through automation, visit Eversprint.com.